I'd like to talk to you about using capacitance probes in regenerative ag. So traditionally, we'd take a probe, a capacitance probe, and we'd put it in there after the crop is established and run it through the season, and then we'd pull it out again at harvest time and then stick it in the shed over the winter where it's not really doing you much good. Then you'd bring it back out, you'd reinstall it the next year, run it through the summer, put it back in the shed, and the process repeats. And so what we are missing is what happens in between times. And so rather than a series of snapshots, we get the movie. We get to see how we got to where we got to. And that's so important, especially in regenerative ag. So we can look at measuring things like cover crops. And so as you roll out of one summer crop and then you plant a cover crop, jury's out in some areas where the cover crops even work. Well, let's not guess, let's find out. Let's keep the probe in there and manage that. And if the cover crop starts using more water than you're prepared to put up with, then you can hit it with a herbicide. But I'd hazard a guess that for most people, you're actually going to see real benefits in trapping moisture, so it'll offset. If people are double cropping, which is really popular for silage production, you're keeping living roots by rolling into the next crop. Traditionally, probes have really only been used in the crop that with a higher value crop, which might be the corn crop, but not used in the alternative crop. Well, we don't have to decide anymore. Let's just leave it in there. And then, of course, for carbon sequestration and soil health, if we're measuring the root growth and water penetration, that's a de facto measure for soil structure and soil health. And so, because we're not taking that probe out, we can compare 1 year to the next, to the next, to the next. We benchmark ourselves in year one, and then you can really see changes because you're not taking the probe out. So anything that's different is due to soil structure. It's due to the practices that you're imposing. So you can use probes really effectively for regenerative ag by looking at improvements to soil health. And if we look at that same movie now and break it down into different components, where we're using moisture in season, we're irrigating. At the end of the season, we try and dry it down because we want to run heavy machinery over the soil. We don't want it wet to get compaction. Hopefully, you get some winter moisture. In most places, you do. But if you don't, you may need to pre-irrigate. So we've got all of that captured. So you can really do a water balance throughout the year and across multiple years. And that's a really cool thing when you're trying to look at regenerative ag practices. You need to capture all the data, not just the summer season. And that way you can link it together, you can benchmark yourself, and you can really make improvement.